It's time for the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Each week, Trading Stocks Made Easy demystifies stock trading and investing so you can profit big. And now, here's the host of Trading Stocks Made Easy, the wealthy investor, Tyrone Jackson.
Wow! It's Tyrone Jackson, the wealthy investor. Welcome back to another episode of the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. You know I love when I have time with you. I'm just getting back in the studio because here's what happened. I had a killer diller event in Maui, and you have to come in 2024. It's something you must do. You have to sit in a room with a bunch of really successful stock traders and learn how to get above average returns on your money. By the way, I'm not talking greed. I'm just telling you there are stock market strategies that I don't teach at WI Trade School or in the live Wealthy Investor program. I save them for that special time of year, and I release them in Maui in a lush environment filled with luxury and open minds. And I'm telling you, it is amazing. So let me tell you something that happened in the 2023 Maui event. So it's a 3-day event. I'm on stage. I love meeting you live and in person. And there's something that happens when you're on stage working in front of live people, like you and the audience kind of like we have to sync up, right? Because in this particular case, it's not like a live theatrical performance, but I can't go into advanced topics until the audience actually comes along with me, right? So if I'm teaching advanced spreads, where you're doing advanced calendar spreads and you're doubling your money every 32 days, and then we're also adding covered calls and collecting dividends, and we're timing trades, and no matter where a particular stock goes within that time, we have an automatic trade in place. It's really a lot of fun. But if the audience doesn't understand the nature of the advanced trades, I can't show them how to make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 extra in relationship to their trade. So it takes a little time for me to find out where they are, what they understand, so on and so forth. The group in 2023 was absolutely phenomenal. And after I did my first 90 minutes, I go off stage. I'm like, I lost them. Let me fix the lesson. And I picked them up in the second half of the day. And then we were basically in sync. Now, on the second day, I do a lot of teaching, but then I bring students on the stage, and we do like this kind of talk show panel thing where each person talks about how they got started, why they're at the $1 million level now, and how the program has helped them, and on and on and on and on. And then the third day, I come back and I just really blow your mind with fantastic trades that you can take home and do, et cetera, et cetera. I have never had this experience on stage before where in the third day, no one saw the ending of the event coming. So when I thanked everyone for being there, the audience looked up like, wait, hold up. You're like, this is it? You're leaving? And I was like, well, yeah, did you read the schedule? This is the last block that I do. And then we go to lunch and all this other kind of stuff. And so although they were very kind in their applause and everything, everyone was in shock, like, no. You got to come back and do another 22 minutes. And it was really fantastic for me to feel that everybody was so pleased and so into trading and learning so many new things that they could take home and trade it better in their IRAs, et cetera, et cetera. So first year I was on stage and people really didn't want me to go. And so I was so pleased for that. And many of you were there, and many of you tell me how much you love this show and how it inspires you week after week after week, and I really appreciate that. Today, I'm going to talk to you about what we sometimes in the wealth world called having a job, which stands for, by the way, just above broke. Why is it most people in America are living paycheck to paycheck and aren't getting rich from their job, but they may not know what's wrong? Sometimes when I'm doing private sessions with people over the telephone, I'm playing sort of kind of doctor, and I'm diagnosing the results that they're getting in their account versus where they say they want to be. And I noticed something very, very interesting. People have the expectations that their job is somehow going to make them rich. Now, if you've listened to this show on a regular basis, you know that's not going to happen. And if you live in the real world, you know it's definitely not going to happen. Why? Because in order for you to be getting rich, you probably need a salary of at least $250,000 or more. And that means that the person who owns the business if they're going to pay you $250, they're probably generating $2, $3, $4 million in gross sales, right? So the owner of the business is always going to be at the top of the economic food chain. At least that's the way it's supposed to work. So unless you're doing something really extraordinary, most people aren't pulling a $250,000 salary base and then a bonus and 401k on top of that. So if you're not doing that, then you're really going paycheck to paycheck in most cases, and you're trying to figure out how you can get rich. Well, you're in luck, because that's what today's episode is all about, a series of positive financial habits. So, you ready for this? And everything that I tell you, if it doesn't make sense to you, it's not for you. But I at least want you to think about these notions, because wealth is nothing but a series of positive financial habits. So if you have a JOB, just above broke station in life, here's the good news. You can actually change that. But in order to get out of your JOB, you're going to need a plan. How many times on the show have I talked to you about the idea of having a plan? Now, sometimes people marry someone who also have a JOB. Now, that is two people who are just above broke. So life seems a little difficult and challenging because you both have these jobs, but yet, miraculously, you don't have financial freedom. And probably what's holding you up is how you both collectively see and view the world with regard to money. Because if you both saw the world the same, you would agree and create, a wealth plan. Hey, honey, we have this life together. It's cool. I love you. You love me most of the time. Just kidding. And but why are we in this station in life? Don't we want something better? Yes. Well, the first thing that you are both going to need is a plan. Both people have to agree that you're a little unsatisfied in financial terms with how life is going. Well, your lack of satisfaction has something to do with what you are both doing with your paycheck. For example, if you're a single person and let's say you're earning $75,000 a year gross with no 401k, right? Now, if you're living in a major market like New York, Chicago, LA, $75,000 is just not going to take you very far. Here's why. Because you're probably commuting to and from work, right? So there's gas money, insurance. You may have to pay for parking, right? And the money that you're spending every single day on your lunch. Why don't you add that up in a week and see what's happening? And then for most people, you have to have the proper attire, professional attire at work. So after taxes and those expenses, what do you really have? Just above broke. Right? So it doesn't mean that you're not educated, you aren't a great person in the world. It's just that you're stuck automatically in this rut. Well, imagine if you marry someone and they're also stuck in this rut. Why? Because they're faced with the same mathematical challenges. Lunch every day, attire, gasoline, right? And your car never works 100% of the time. And your dishwasher's going to break. And there will always be these unexpected expenses. Well, if you guys haven't planned for that, when these expenses come up, what's going to happen in your thought pattern? You're going to believe whatever you see before you. Oh, it's so hard to make money in the world. Are we ever really going to get ahead? Now, remember, I'm talking about two people who do not have a 401k or a retirement plan. So how are things really going to change? How are you really going to create and invite a new cycle in your life? Well, inviting a new cycle in your life actually is easy if you both, and this is the magic of it all, are you ready? If you both decide you are unhappy and you want a different future. Could you imagine that if you both sit down and go, what kind of life do we really want? Not the life that we have. You know what's magical about that? You can actually create it. Okay, I'll show you how. Imagine if one person is able to save $150 out of every paycheck. And for ease and convenience, they get a paycheck every single week. So they are now saving $600 a month because they're just above broke, right? They're just meeting those expenses. Well, if the other person goes, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do the same thing. And instead of saving $600 a month, we'll both be able to save $1,200 a month. Now, I know someone's listening, go, Tyrone, that is not a lot of money. No, But in 10 months, it's what? $12,000. Now, once you have that $12,000 cash basis in your checking account, you now have, believe it or not, you actually have wealth. Because what's the definition of wealth that I talk about on this show? Having more than what you need. Well, if you had $12,000 cash sitting in an account and you don't need that every single day, you have wealth. What could your next step be? Hey, now we're going to take that $12,000 or $1,200 and we're going to commit to buying $1,200 worth of stock every single month. What kind of stock? I don't know. Just stocks that are in the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P. Oh man, we have a shot at being rich now. Why? Because we've got the savings part down. We know how to put money away. But the next step is we know how to put money away in something that's going to appreciate in value. Now, why is this so important and why is this so significant? Because if you stay with Dow stocks and you start off with Dow stocks that pay a dividend, that dividend that hits your account every quarter is a form of residual income. You see, it's not that you can't be rich. It's not that you'll always be just above broke. It's probably that you don't have a plan and a desire that you've both identified to change your life. Now, it seems like there's something really fancy that could be missing. Most people don't have the desire. So you might not think of your life as not being as fulfilling as you want. You might not think of how do we take multiple vacations. There are a lot of things that you might not think of. But you see, if you start saving a little bit and then you move on to investing a little bit, what's going to happen to the $12,000 that you invested over a 36-month period? By the way, that's 3 years. Okay? Well, let's do the math here. That is at least $36,000 you now have in the stock market, and you still have that $12,000 in your savings. So you're okay in the short term, but look at the $36,000 that you now own worth of stock that you purchased. Well, those shares, presumably, if you bought good companies, could go up in 3 years, and although you've contributed $36,000, your investment could be worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 in just 3 years. Let's go back. You have savings, right? Yes. Now you have money that you've invested, even if it's just $150 a week. So one of the biggest barriers that I see with people is when I say wealth, or you listen to someone else who's wealth-oriented, it feels like you have to have massive, massive, massive amounts of money to be rich. And that's simply not true. Being rich is like being a squirrel, right? And you go out into the yard and you collect one nut and you save it and you put it in its place. But if you can get one nut per day, right, for 7 days, you have 7 nuts, right? And the math goes on and on and on. So if you're willing to start with a small amount of money, get your savings first because you'll need that to feel safe and secure, and move on to investing after that. Investing does not take forever. It takes a reasonable time period. And what I've discovered is most people can be rich or richer within a 2 to 5 year time period. Now, here's where the game gets interestinger and interestinger, as my nieces and nephews would say. As you're investing about 6 months to a year into it, you can then start trading, buying a stock, selling it for profit, buying a stock, selling it for profit. This all started with some small, insignificant figure. This is the building blocks for building a life around wealth. You and your partner have to decide the ways in which you are unsatisfied financially to make a small change that produces what? Big results. You have that power right now to write down where it is that you are unsatisfied financially so your whole life can change in 2 to 5 years. It's just that simple. What do immigrants know that maybe you and I don't think about every day? They come here from all over the world with very little. And they realize that America is not only about political choice, right? It's also about financial choice. So what you see a lot of immigrant families do is they jam-pack an apartment or they jam-pack a house, but they're very good at creating a financial plan. What if we all pooled our resources? Could we own this house within 3 years? How does this work financially? Right? And then one person decides, well, I'll own the house. You'll all be owners in it. And then we'll all save up. Someone else will buy a house. We'll all be owners in it. We'll sell those houses, split up the profits, and then we're all on our way. Do you get that? Okay. So one of the things about the country that we live in, there's tremendous amounts of opportunity, but it all starts with your thoughts, your consciousness, and you being in touch with where you are unsatisfied financially. Now, remember, it's great to identify where you're unsatisfied because that's going to show you where you can make the change. Your life was meant to be bigger financially than it is now. That doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to work harder, but you have to identify where you're unsatisfied so you can plug those holes and begin to make teeny tiny changes that create big things within the next 2 to 5 years. Back in a moment.
Want to increase your stock market trading profits? Then you need to start your monthly membership to WITradeschool.com right now. Don't understand how to write covered calls for monthly income? No problem. Simply review Tyrone's latest stock trades in our video library as many times as you need. WITradeschool.com is all about helping you get the financial education you need to earn money in the stock market and change your financial life. Tyrone Jackson, the wealthy investor, has helped his students earn thousands of dollars per month trading stocks online from home. These are people just like you. So what are you waiting for? Follow Tyrone Jackson's red-hot stock trades and investment strategies today. Don't wait. Start your monthly membership at WITradeschool.com right now.
Welcome back. We're talking about the idea of why would you be satisfied with being just above broke? Believe it or not, that is most of America. And the reasons, or one of the reasons I think it's that way, is because we never get the right financial education because the education you received was about making you working class. Do you realize that? If you went to a public school, no one taught you financial freedom. That is intentional because they're teaching you how to work for other people. They're in effect teaching you how to remain just above broke for the rest of your life. Now, I know that there are people out there who would say, well, Tyrone, the argument is actually a little bit more complex than that because what if I get a bonus, or what if I get a new job, or what if someone passes away in my family and I get an inheritance, or my wife and I sell our house? Now what do we do? Well, you were given the opportunity to put these positive influences and patterns into place, right? So when someone passes away and leaves us money, or we get divorced and we get some unexpected funds, that is an opportunity to put a new system into play. Now, it's no surprise that most of the people who come to Maui have achieved a certain level of financial freedom, right? So I'm thinking of one student right now. She started trading with only $15,000, and I shouldn't say only. And she realized she owned these 2 homes because before she met me, she thought real estate was the way to wealth. And it is for some people. But when she got an appraisal of both her houses, combined, they were worth $900,000. She was like, if I sell these houses and put that $900,000 in the stock market or $700,000 in the stock market, I could be at $25,000 a month between covered calls, cap gains, and dividends. And that's what she did. Right? Because when you sit down and do the math and say, well, am I going to accept $1,000 a month positive cash flow from each one of these homes? Or am I going to do what billionaires do, put my money in the stock market and take $25,000 a month in income through trading stocks. It's the same investment. It's just used differently. Do you get that? Right. So she will never be just above broke, because once you start earning $25,000 a month trading Dow stocks, by the way, not penny stocks, your world is changed forever. Right? So now she has a brand new habit. And by the way, when she sold the houses, she didn't put all of her money into the stock market. She kept some in cash. Why? Because the monthly cash flow from the stock market was greater than just owning the 2 homes and taking the chance that her tenants might miss a month or 2. There goes her positive cash flow. And I'm not trying to tell you not to own real estate. I own real estate. I'm about to sell a building, though, by the way. When I sell that building, it won't make me rich, but it has done very well for me over a 15 to 20 year period, right? So that's why when you hear me talk to you about wealth being a series of positive habits, it really starts with your beliefs, your desires first, and then you're just going to play that out with your $150 a week in savings, your $200 a week in savings. And whenever I'm teaching live and I say, this is how you begin the wealth building process, and I say $150 put into a savings account each week, some people go, hey, I could do $400. Okay, well, if you could do $400, everything that I just talked about is going to happen for you even faster. Build your savings first. If you're new to this concept, get a nice little cushion under you. Take that same money that you put in savings, start a new cycle by putting that money in a brokerage account. So where are you dissatisfied financially? Because you can change that, you can fix that, and you can have the joys of living a bigger, better, more secure financial life through engaging in these habits. Now, the final point that I want to make is very often, if you have a job and you're just above broke, very often it's because that's what your parents or your primary caregivers did, and that's what they consciously and unconsciously passed on to you. So if you want a better life for your kids, nieces, nephews, whoever it is that you're influencing in your life, because in your life you are an influencer. Someone is watching you and taking notes. If you want a better life for the people around you, then you up-level yours. That is your responsibility, and it's easier than you think. Now, how does that feel? For most people, that feels great to know that you have some control, some say-so over your financial life. You know, I don't know why this has just been coming up for me a lot lately. I was thinking, hey, if you weren't a wealthy investor and you didn't have this brand and these other businesses, like, what would you do? I guess I'm challenging myself in a lot of ways. I was like, well, if I didn't have a right financial education, I would get a job and make a plan. What would your plan be? I thought, well, it depends on what the job is, right? But I'd probably do something in sales, surprise, surprise. Maybe work at a luxury hotel, so I'd go to work in a luxury environment, and then I would put a time limit on it. Like, I would not tell my employer, but I'd probably go, I'm going to stay here for 4 years, look at this 401k, and then I'm out of here because I will have 2 homes, a brokerage account, and money from the stock market. Like, I'd actually make a plan. And I think I do that in part because I have such a terrific life, and my students have such terrific lives. I accept the challenge of, if I had to start over, what would I do? And I like the idea of a 4-year plan. And the number 4 comes up a lot when I'm doing financial planning for myself, for a business. And I think, why does that number come up? It's just a cycle, right? Like, high school is 4 years. Junior high school, intermediate school, 4 years, right? College, 4-year degree. So to a certain extent, I'm conditioned into the 4-year pattern. Hedge funds, by the way, have 5-year plans. But there's something about the number 4, because I've completed several 4-year cycles. It's comfortable. It's real to me. Now, what I'm learning how to do is upgrade my entire life and lifestyle in 2-year cycles. Like, wow, why don't I just achieve this thing in 2 years? But the point that I'm trying to raise is there's always a plan, right? You make $1 million, you want to make $5 million. You make $5 million, let's try to make $10 million. Why? Because once you're in the habit of being successful, it is a very, very difficult habit to break, because each day is so joyful. So here's the moral of the story of today's episode. You do not have to be like most people. You do not have to be just above broke. find the places in your life where you are dissatisfied. That dissatisfaction is your best friend right now because it's an indicator as to where you can upgrade and change your life, change your thoughts, you change your life. And by the way, how much does it cost you to change your thoughts? It costs you no money at all. You just have to identify where you're unhappy financially and be willing to take the actions to change. I'm Tyrone Jackson. Join me as always at thewealthyinvestor.net. We're about to refresh our free ebook on the stocks that I like because we're going into a market where, AI stocks are going to do really well. And I want you to participate in that cycle. So make sure if you haven't signed up for the free newsletter at thewealthyinvestor.net and gotten that free ebook, make sure you get it because you want to have a sense of where we're going and the market changes. You want to be there. I know I'll be there. Thanks so much for listening. If this show helps you in any way, shape, or form, share it on social media. You don't know who you will be helping. Why? Because in your life, you're an influencer too. See you next week right here on Trading Stocks Made Easy.
You've been listening to the Trading Stocks Made Easy podcast. Be sure to rate and review our show on iTunes. While you're on iTunes, be sure to click the subscribe button and you'll automatically receive our next episode.